We are so grateful to have Charles Haynes with us and Dennis Warner with us. I think just about everybody here knows Charles. There maybe are a few folks who don't know very much. I'm not going to give a long introduction. Both next to, at the time it was considered next to the Center. So he spent his youth growing up at the Mayor Spiritual Center. His mother, Jane Haynes, was the administrative director. Some of us had the great pleasure of being with Jane on the center and her gracious way in which she welcomed people to the center and made them feel so absolutely special in her really special way. And religious freedom. And I don't know if you're talking about that or not. But Charles also had the great honor of meeting Mayor Baba and being in his embrace in the 50s and also in the 60s, which he'll share with us. And he has been our special guest. This is the second time here in the Twin Cities and a couple other times in Chicago. So we're so grateful, Charles, that you accepted our invitation.
Stories about Baba, it strikes me that we think of it as, well, we're talking about something that happened so many X years ago, something in history and so forth. But actually, it struck me recently that from Mayor Baba's perspective, it didn't happen so many years ago. It is now. And only from the way we see it are we talking about something that happened. So I think that's one reason that telling the stories or remembering is really not a history lesson. It's not nostalgia for something that was past and people had a long time ago. It's actually for now, for what's happening now. I think those stories are actually happening now in the deepest sense, because when a story is told, when an image comes out of Mayor Baba's physical life, some heart recognizes it. It could be the thing that I didn't even think of or know, but someone recognizes it as their story or as who they are. And I always thought that's an extraordinary thing, almost kind of a miraculous thing, that someone would say, well, you know, I really feel that's my experience. And something happened long ago, but then it really isn't so surprising and miraculous, because what happened then is happening now for him. So what he was doing then, he was doing now. Only in the computer age does my mind even begin to wrap itself around this. You know, I mean, honestly, because I have a very limited way of understanding these things, but the computer age actually has helped me just a little bit, because when I go on MapQuest and I put in an address, and what pops up you know, in seconds are all these detailed things, and I think, so who's back there saying, okay, now you go turn right, and so, you know, how do they do that? How do they do that? And I know that it can be done, and there's this thing that's something I don't really understand it, but it gives me some glimpse into how it is that what Baba did in a moment was for all time. It was out of time. You know, and it's because the computer is kind of a shadow of that capacity. So how does he do it? Well, I mean, a little tiny example that is a personal example, but you know, that's the only illustration I can think of, and that is when my sister, which was a little girl, she met Baba too in 1958, like I did. She was 6, and she, at the birthday party, goes up and she gives Baba, we give him a garland, and Baba embraces her and all that. So you can see this on the movie. You know, you see the film of this little blonde girl going up and Baba's embracing, and very beautiful. But if you look carefully in the film, as Baba is embracing her, I didn't notice this until many, many years later. But as Baba's embracing Wendy, Bessie Graham comes into the picture, who was Elizabeth's housekeeper, and who also cooked for all the people at the gathering in Myrtle Beach at the center in the 58 Sahavas. And so Bessie Graham comes into the picture carrying her little grandbaby, or she called them her grands, carrying one of her grands. And there's a tableau. There's Bessie and the grand, Baba holding my sister. Now, years later, fast forward, 7 years or so, or 8 years, and Wendy's now a teenager, and she going home with Elizabeth Patterson, who we were raised by, really, who founded the Center of Myrtle Beach. And Elizabeth was taking Bessie home, and Wendy was riding along. They got to her house, and it was in a section where black people were segregated off, you know, to live in this poor, terrible place. You know, the South had not changed much then, and in many ways still has not changed. And it was something that my sister and I were deeply, and Elizabeth, deeply touched by, and it shaped a lot of what we did in our lives, actually, to see this. But so we took her home, and the grands of Bessie now were, of course, bigger. The baby in that picture was, and they were playing in the street. And Wendy said to Elizabeth, she called her Auntie Boo, she said, Auntie Boo, why can't they come and play at the center? Because we have so much room and they have no place to play. And Elizabeth said, oh, that would be lovely. And so the next Saturday, they went down and they brought Bessie's grandchildren back to play at the center. And those of you who've been at the center, where there used to be a swing outside the caretaker's cabin, a little playground area, and there was a shelter there in the old days. And they started what became Happy Club. Wendy wanted to call it Happy Club. And then every Saturday from then on, the children coming in grew and grew and grew and grew. And Baba sent messages to Happy Club. He actually sent a children's book to Happy Club and inscribed it to them. And he blessed it as my Happy Club. And that was our entry into working in that community. Because you see, through these children coming to the center, then I got involved in working with high school students. We started the first black-white high school group in South Carolina. And that's another story, a lot of opposition. But we did it, and we did community in this community, and then my mother got involved and started an organization that's still going today, a free clinic and many other things. So that little seed, you see, started all of these things. Now you say, well, why are you saying all this? Well, because of how he is. Maybe I'm imagining this, but I'm just going to say this is how I feel. This is what I feel. Years after all of this happened, I looked at that 58 film and that birthday party, and I looked and I saw, and there it was. You see? There it was, Baba holding my sister, and at that moment, Bessie comes in with that child who was the first Happy Clubber. And not thinking about it, Wendy started Happy Club on the spot where Baba was sitting at the birthday. That's where the spot was. And it's only then looking back, you see, and making these connections. And I mean, we've missed a million connections, but there are a few you make. We realize, hey, in that moment for Baba, you see, it was now. It was in the 70s. It was all the things we thought we were doing or going to do in the future, or for him, it's all now. And how is that possible? Well, if MapQuest can do it, Baba can do it. That's all I can say. I mean, to say somehow in the mind that our idea is that there's a past, a present, and a future. His experience, apparently, I have no personal knowledge of this, but his experience is apparently it's all now. So these stories didn't happen back then. From his perspective, they're happening now. And whether he's in the body or not is irrelevant. That's our idea. Oh yeah, he was in the body and now he's not in the body and so forth. From his perspective, it's this one and the same. Well, I just wanted to say that because when one shares these stories, I myself don't like to think of them as something historical, you know, and that's to me, a little embarrassing, you know, to say, well, you know, let me tell you what happened in the good old days. I mean, I don't feel like that, and so I wanted to say that's how I feel, why I even think we should say these stories. The other thing to say is maybe a little bit of a disclaimer about talking about Baba, that, you know, I really don't know very much to say about Baba, but I can only say the best that I've experienced. You know, I can only say what I feel. And I've learned this from Erich, as many of you did. What would Erich always say? You remember he'd say, someone would press him on some point or ask him some question, and he would always preface it by saying, or very frequently say, yeah, what I have gathered is this. This is what I have gathered. Not this is what Baba would say, this is what the truth, or this is the answer. This is what I have gathered. Yeah, this is what I have gathered from him. And that reminded me, when Erich would say that, of Baba himself in 1962 at the East-West Gathering. Someone brought up something about discourses or some coming out, new discourses coming out. I think the Everything and the Nothing was in preparation, and so it came up, and someone asked Baba about it, and Baba said, yes, yeah, there are these discourses, they're coming out. He said, don't worry about it if you don't understand, it's for posterity and all that. But then Baba said, look, when they come out, each of you is free to interpret my words as you wish. But then Baba said, but do one thing. First say, this is my interpretation. And so I think that's what Erich was conveying. So we all are free to say, this is, you know, Baba said this, or Baba did, but we should say, this is mine. This is what I've gathered. This is how I come to it. Because it can be understood in an infinite number of ways. And really speaking, when it comes to this topic of Meher Baba, everyone's right, and no one's right. It's not a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter of our own inner experience and what brings us closer. And for one person, that's very different than